Welcome back to the War Room, powered by Draft HQ and Prep Baseball. Shooter and Svihlik, home from the 305, Miami, DJ Khaled, the whole mix. For some reason, neither of us really have a tan, which probably has more to do with the roof being over, and we were getting some work in all weekend. But DJ, how are you recovering from that Miami trip and the Prep Baseball second annual All-America game?
Man, what a great event. That was my first time behind the scenes at an event like that. I've been to a number of different All-Star games. And most recently, I went to the MLB one. And this just absolutely blew it out of the water. And I've never seen behind the scenes the amount of work that goes into these kind of things. I assumed, of course, it takes a lot of work, a lot of coordination, but the support you get to make this event go off is spectacular. And to watch, I mean, the players tell you a lot about how the event's going. You know, the scouts are one thing, they see it through their lens, but the players really seem to enjoy themselves. The venue was really, really nice. Outside of Miami dropping the ball and deciding not to turn the air condition on, the venue was great. The people behind the scenes for the Marlins were very accommodating, all the clubhouse people. It was smooth on the field. The gear was great. The player experience behind the scenes. I mean, really? We got a world champion cornhole guy showing the players how to play cornhole. So it was just a great experience. I really enjoyed it. And on the player side and the evaluation side, the players that were supposed to step up, that you wanted to step up, they answered the bell. And that also makes you feel really, really good. I'm wondering, Shooter, I'll lob this out there to you. I talked about it on the broadcast. This is only the second year that we've done this event. The class of 2025 has set the bar. They're now 2-0. Who's the next class to go 2-0? I don't think we should undersell how difficult that is to probably do.
Yeah, and you know what? I think the year one really helped that 2025 group. And just to recap, the 2025s did put on a good show there. The bats came alive, some good pitching, obviously prospects on both sides. Outstanding event. Shout out to Mizuno, who outfitted the guys, the gloves, the uniforms each day, the attention to detail for, kind of the swaggy uniforms for workout day and Friday that paid homage to the city of Miami and just the vibrant Magic City life, and then the classic look in the game. But you do talk about last year going into the event, kind of expected the 2025s to do what they did. They have a ton of talent. You kind of set the bar for this class and cemented. There's a lot of exciting up the middle players, really good position players. They were in full force there in Miami. And then even a kind of a surprising one, Josh Hammond, who we'll get to in a minute, who I don't know about you, but I'm shifting over even more so to the position side of things with him, although the roller coaster is always very open. An outstanding event, 9 innings of great baseball, from the home run derby on the first day, the workout, guys putting in the sweaty work, but also having some fun off the field. I think the biggest takeaway from all of our staff who were outstanding the whole week was just how great the kids were. They have a professional approach. They don't feel entitled by any means. And this is a group of guys who, many of them are anointed. Like these are 7-figure guys, slam dunks. Those are the floors for a lot of them. Hardly entitled, just great kids, very respectful, who also go out there looking to step on necks. But an outstanding event. But we do want to talk about some of the data. And here, the most famous man in baseball, one of my favorite people to talk to, not just about baseball, but about anything. Known him since his area code days over at Student Sports. But Joe Tourville from Blast Motion is with us, who is one of the more gifted baseball minds, one of the more intriguing people to read if you get a chance. But we want to welcome in Joe here to the War Room to chat about a little bit of the data from the position player side. But JT, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys? That was a phenomenal intro. Thank you for that. Wow.
That was great. Promos like I'm written there. Woo!
It's a high bar. You got a lot of – see what happens when you set expectations? Now you got to go, Joe.
I know. Well, I'm just such a insider. I didn't even know I was that popular. That's good to know. Sweet.
So for those of you, Joe, we drove over to the field each day, and this event's really special, but it's one of those, like, at our heart, Prep Baseball, we are a scouting company, right? We love to get after the events, run a clean, smooth event. What is the best thing that we can do in event for the scouting community? So Friday was a full-on workout. Kids got after it, from the data metrics, from the physical testing, right into the defensive evaluations, over into some really long BP sessions that led up to the home run derby. But I want to talk to you about those BP sessions and some of the data collected. We were talking before you came on. Hey, all these guys are really good, and they better be. They're all Americans. But I wanted to dive into a few guys and ask you, who were your top metric guys, blast motions wise, whether it's bat speed, rotational acceleration? Who were kind of the guys that stood out to you?
Yeah. Do you want me to start with like 2026 and then go into
Let's split up.
2025?
Let's start with the 2025s off the jump, because those guys are in their draft year.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, I'll start with like a personal favorite of mine throughout the year. Xavier Nyans. I know he's been having some struggles during the showcase circuit, but like the qualities and the traits seem like major league qualities and traits. Like they have traits that are able to translate past AA. We can start with his bat speed. I mean, his average bat speed actually was higher at the All-American event than it was at area code games. He averaged 78 miles an hour, which is pretty intense. And his rotational acceleration continues to be above 20 Gs. And just for like people listening who need like a refresher on the relationship between bat speed and rotational acceleration. Bat speed is the peak speed at contact. MLB average is usually around 72 miles an hour. And then rotational acceleration measures how quickly you get into that bat speed. So you could have two hitters, say, swinging the bat 72 miles an hour. The guy who gets from like 0 to 72 quicker tends to be in more opportunistic or advantageous situations, especially because they're enabled to make later decisions at the plate.
Joe, is he one of those guys? The first time we started speaking about the blast stuff, you talked about those guys who are Lamborghinis that turn into Mac.
Yeah, exactly. I think who did I use that for? I think it was Knapsack or something like that.
It might have been
kind of like a Lamborghini. Yeah, it's quick. It's a quick swing. There's a difference between quick and fast, and then also like how you are able to utilize that quick and fast swing with like your intent levels. Like some of the best hitters out there are really good at utilizing their intent on their swing. So there's a difference between like swinging fast and like swinging hard. Driveline has like a really good video that's out there. I recommend anyone watching that. But
JT, let me ask DJ, just because you got to see X throughout the summer. You came away from area codes with some thoughts on him. A few weeks later, you get to check him out this past weekend in Miami. Any differences that you saw? Any other takeaways along with what Joe's talking about here?
No, he's the same player. He just likes to swing and miss.
Yeah.
No, I say that. I say that jokingly because I'm a Xavier Nyans fan, and I thought that what's interesting is you have to address the fact that he keeps swinging and missing. There's something going on there over the course of the summer and whatnot. I've got my own personal thoughts on it, but I really, really liked the conversation that I had with Joe the evening after the event. And Joe, I'm going to put the ball in your court because I really like how you phrased it. You and I have talked before about different types of things when you're evaluating a hitter. Do you recall what you said to me about athleticism, makeup, and then swing metrics, and then something along the lines of taking the bet on that? Expand on that because it really hit a chord. I'm a big fan of reimagining how we look at simple things. So historically, how do we look at hitting? Can we reimagine it and talk about it in a different way? I really liked what you said. So go ahead if you can recall that.
Yeah, so the three qualities I've really started to hone in on when evaluating amateur prospects is impact, how hard they hit the ball, how far they hit the ball, how often, athleticism, and then makeup. The impact's a big one for me because you have to be able to hit the ball hard and far to play professional baseball. Especially when you're compared to other professional baseball players and you're competing for a spot. It's also just a trait that most top amateur prospects have before they become like a major leaguer. The biggest question is always how much can they get into their impact, and that's always the hardest question to answer at an amateur level. So that's like the biggest question that I think everyone's starting to look at with Nyan is like we see the impact, like we see the 110 exit velos in BP. We see the big home runs at USA Baseball. I mean, even when he was as an underclassman playing the upperclassman games last year, Rico games, like he stroked. He hit 500, he hit a bunch of doubles. He chose to be in the home run derby. So like the impact has been evident there. I think it's a really, really, really important quality. The one thing we're gonna have to look really closely at dive deeper in, which makes it more fun. I think it's fun when like the best guys struggle. You have to kind of do your homework more. We have to figure out like whether he can get it to its impact enough, which is mainly contact quality, zone control, because you have a good control for the strike zone and pitch recognition. And I think those are three things that scouts are probably going to start evaluating more closely. Because for me, I'm back and forth whether it's like a zone control or a pitch recognition thing, or if it's like a timing thing. And the timing thing has something to do with like some sort of adjustment he's working on. Because he seems like he's trying to. It does seem like there's an effort of steepness in the swing, putting the ball in the air more, which would make sense for a guy like Nayans, who's like, because like the decision whether to try to put the ball in the air more should be contingent on how hard you hit the ball, how far you hit the ball, and that was pretty evident after last year as underclassmen playing a lot of upper class guys, especially going into this draft year. So to me, like, and I'm speculating, but like it seems like he's like, all right, I can hit the ball really, really hard, and I can hit the ball pretty far. Maybe I need to try to get into that more. And it does seem like in the swing once in a while, it gets a little steep in the back end. And maybe long term, once he figures it out, it's going to be really good. So it's either something that's like not really working right now, or he just hasn't finished the adjustment. And there's probably really good scouts out there that probably understand that. And the tools are the tools, and the qualities are qualities. But I can get into the athleticism side of the big stuff if you want. But DJ, I feel like you have something to say right now.
No, I'm listening to you, and I love what you're saying, and it's a reason why, I introduced Nayans with he keeps swinging and missing, but I'm a Nayans apologetic. I like this guy, and I think the easy thing to do in the scouting community is to just walk away and go out, he swings and misses and this and that. But one of the takeaway from all of these games, from the events that we do we go to in the summer, and you watch the progression of these players. You've referenced Nayans all the way back as an underclassman. You look at a guy like this, and what you're hearing from scouts that are around the player is this kid's awesome. This kid's got it. He's self-aware. He knows what's going on. Other players like him. He's highly engaged in his game. So what you're looking for as you move out of this, because we're not going to see these players play for probably another 4 or 5 months. So as a scouting department, what are you looking for? And I'm not going to go over all the questions that you just addressed because I think they're really good ones. We don't need to talk about his swing and miss anymore. We need to talk about what's he going to do over the next 4 or 5 months so that when we show up in Northern Washington come spring, is this going to look like a different hitter? Is he going to give us the confidence that he's affected some of the things in his swing, his setup, his swing angle, all those kind of things? And he's going to need the people around him, because if he does, this guy can absolutely blow up. I didn't realize until I was in the dugout next to him how big he really is. He's got huge shoulders, huge frame, excellent strength potential. He's got all this great stuff going for him. Now it's up to him to answer some of the questions that scouts have this offseason.
For sure. And I think before we wrap up Nayans here, I walked away like fairly cemented in my views on him at this point. I was blown away by interviewing him, some of the stuff he had at the end of the season this spring with the broken hammock that he was late getting back to, but I loved everything about him. I think huge upside. I think he will continue to rise. But JT, I want you to move on to some of the other guys that you have.
Real quick on Nayans. I also want to I like Nayans' case study and conversation because it also like points out something that is everyone's like this everywhere, but it's like especially like this in baseball, Scott. Like we're so addicted to like over rationalizing the evaluation on players that like we just want everyone just wants clear quantitative evidence that this guy's gonna stroke in professional baseball. It's never the case. Like a lot of guys who stroke in the amateur circuit don't go on to be good professional baseball players. And I've seen guys go 0 for 15 with 10 strikeouts in area code games who are starting in center. I'm pretty sure Pico Armstrong was 0 for 15 with 10 or 8 Ks in area code games. I'm starting center fielder for the Cubs. That's blush it. So yeah, I really enjoy the conversation around Nayans this year because I think it points out a lot of things where scouting's hard and qualities are really, really important.
Nayans feels like he's going to be. Sorry. Nayans feels like he's going to be the captain. Everybody's going to try to devalue to move him down to their pick. So we're going to spend whoever starts getting 10 to 20. I mean, shoot, even go the White Sox right now. Can't pick in the top 10. Nayans seems like a great pick for the White Sox. But
hey, Shooter, I know you want to move on to some other players. I have to jump back here because I like this guy too. They're trying to find a pathway to a Group 6 player in the big leagues. And when you look across the big league spectrum, there's usually one asset, one tool, one skill set that allows a player to become a 6. It's power. Guys that hit for power become 6s and better. Guys that don't are very good players in the big leagues, but it seems to be a common thread for the group 6 players and above. And when you have that kind of raw power potential and athleticism, you have to stay with it. That's all I've got to say about that.
Cut that bite, Rut the Jets. Again, stuff. Joe, who else you got? Because we could talk here about X for the rest of the days while he's chopping down trees up in the Northwest for the next 4 months. Who else did you like there?
Well, I mean, like, I guess we go with the easy one. Like, Jason Cunningham was pretty impressive. You guys got that one right. With
MVP of the event, had a great day, 2 for 3 with a home run.
Yeah, and then he also like that high fastball he like rolled over on for a 99-mile-per-hour ground ball through the 4-hole.
Yeah,
that was a really impressive swing. The adjustment he made in that swing was sick. But yeah, I mean, that was the first time I got to see him this year because I missed some area code games to do that USA baseball. I mean, I saw him last year's underclass guy area code games, and his class state was great. I think it was pretty much the same as like what's this year. It's around it's like a 50 grade bat speed, like 70, 72 miles per hour, and then 20 each rotation acceleration. And its on-plane efficiency is around 90%, which is like pretty crazy. 70% and higher for anyone that isn't it's listening. But on-plane efficiency is basically how long your swing plane stays on the path of the incoming pitch. And we measure that by like contact working backwards to the bat. But like a lot of guys too, like I mean, the goal is to get above 70%. And in a lot of cases, guys will get to like 90%, but they're like sacrificing bat speed to get there. But he doesn't, so that's like really, really positive. Also. Like I get when I saw him as underclass last year, I was like, yeah, you guys are a really good hitter. But like, you know, he's 5'9", so like in my head, I'm like, oh, I wonder if that impact's ever going to be like a thing. Like I don't know if he put on like the impact numbers he did, like the exit velos and the distance, like hit the ball on the upper deck in BP. Like everything was above like 98 miles per hour, 100 miles an hour. Like if he was 6 foot, I'd be like, oh, this guy's like clear 1-1. Like you know what I mean? Like I mean, I'm a short guy too, but like. Yeah, there's like human biases here, but I mean, he was incredible. Like he was so good. And that was my first time seeing him this year, and everyone told me they're like flying, like he's flying off like breathless and stuff like that. And I just kept thinking, like, really, that 5'9" guy from like last year? But man, he was so good. Everything was good about it. Pitch recognition, zone control, intent on opportunistic counts. Like he was raising his intent on like it seemed like he was raising his intent like on 2-0 or whatever, like any kind of hitters count. He looks like someone who can protect really well with 2 strikes, and he hits the ball super hard and pretty far too. So yeah, I mean, it was easy. It was an easy one. It was really good.
DJ, let me ask you, and we talk about, hey, you're looking for something that makes you feel warm and fuzzy, a guy who has the production. Casey Cunningham is 4 years of track record of doing that. But the last time we talked about him, you were already a huge fan. You hadn't seen BP though. And I told you about USA, how, hey, this little dude is putting on a show where a lot of guys were having trouble leave the yard. He was leaving it with fair amount of ease to the pull side. Now he put some signs of damage in the second deck there in Miami. What did you take away from, hey, there is a glimpse of some power here from this little guy?
Yeah, that's the big thing. When you're going into these events, you've got a couple ways you can approach it. If you've never seen the player before, that's a completely different approach than when you've seen the player before. We talk about this volume and diversity of looks. Well, I haven't seen Cunningham for a 5 or a 6 day stretch like at Area Codes or at East Coast Pro or any of those kind of things. I'm getting these little snapshots. So I put the evaluation together. To your point on power, I like what Joe's saying. I could have never said that in San Diego. And you know how I felt about him in San Diego. He stole the show. He stepped up and he said, I'm the guy. And when you've never seen a player before and you don't get a round of infield and you're starting from scratch, you don't know what the tools are, the only thing the player can do is step up and say, I'm the guy. Well, now he's done it 2 times in a row. And on top of that, I come into this event. I had a, thank gosh that I write in pencil. I had to scribble out my raw power grade. Now, as a scout, I look at the young man's body. I look at Kaysen's body. I look at his measurables. No, I'm probably not going to drop a big power grade on my card. But when I see him leave the yard like that, all that makes me feel like is this guy is going to be strong enough to handle the wood. This guy is going to be strong enough to handle velocity, to get on top of velocity. And you might have a super high, I think about offense, creating offense, driving a high OPS, which will push his WAR value, high batting average, high slugging percentage, high Batting average? Yeah, I said it. Batting average. Can you collect hits? This is a guy that's got barrel awareness. This is a guy that's got enough strength to drive the ball in the gap. You can imagine this guy with 50 doubles, hitting 290, 300, drawing walks because he's got control of the strike zone. And all of a sudden, you've got a really, really good player. And you layer on top of that, this player's background, which I've come to learn a lot more about. Dad playing at Texas Tech, a family that holds him accountable. There's so many positives with this player. I've probably moved, and I was a huge Xavier Edwards fan, and he's playing really well in the big leagues for the Marlins. I like this more.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
It's and makeup, like his ability to slow things down, I was blown away by. Just not super loud about it. He had a little hamstring injury going into the summer. So coming back from that as well with the speed and that ground force, but he is like ultra relaxed. So I step up to interview him. He's my first interview. We're trying to get stuff set all over, kind of chaotic in the room. And he just turns to me and goes, "You're going to be great. You're going to be great." And I will never forget him giving me a quick mound visit before the first interview of the day.
that doesn't surprise me, and I've never met him before. That I talked to some college coaches when we were at the event. To a man, every college coach would love to have this guy in their team because of these things. They've known this for a long time. And Shooter, you said it. You said it to me the very first time I saw him. He runs out to shortstop. There's a bunch of 6'2", 6'3" profile-looking guys, and he always takes their job. He always plays big in the big moments. And that's I guess we can measure those things, but some players have that and some players don't. He clearly has it.
JT, what do you got?
DJ, what did you put like a power grade on him or an impact grade on him?
In San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah, in San Diego, again, I only saw one batting practice, and I look at his body, and I looked at some of the ground balls he put. In San Diego, I had a 35 raw power grade. That was just wrong. But, you put what you see, and that's why you keep scouting the players. We keep saying volume and diversity of looks so that you can complete this puzzle. Now I'd probably push him much closer to a 45 or 50 now raw power grade with a chance to grow. Brett Gardner, remember when we first signed Brett Gardner with the Yankees, he wasn't driving the ball out of the yard. This guy's showing the ability to get it out of the yard. So
I did almost the same thing. I was writing a pen though. I wrote like a 40 after the first round, and then like at the end of the second after the game, I put a 50 on my notes. Just because of a lot of what you said too is like he finds like the barrel a lot. And one thing I love about being at Blast, like I can see certain metrics that, usually do scale, especially in good athletes like him. Like I can see him finding the barrel a lot in professional baseball and past AA. And with that power already, like I know the frame's not going to add like a ton of like more muscle mass or anything like that, but it could I do think he can add a lot of dynamic strength for sure. I'm
gonna throw a guy out there. We put this guy on a pedestal. Sorry to interrupt you, because I'm excited about this player. I really like him. Yeah, I like 6'3" guys too, like everybody else. I want the body to look like James Wood. I want the body to look like Jackson Merrill. Of course, we all do. But we've come to appreciate that bodies come in different shapes and forms, and if it works for him, it works for him. A name I dropped, I think I said it on the broadcast. What's the difference between this guy and Tamar Johnson? Where'd Tamar Johnson go in the draft? This guy throws better, runs faster.
Yes.
Just as good a hitter, more dynamic in the middle of the field. I'm not saying he's going to go up there in the draft, but we ordained Tamar Johnson in the top 5 or 6 picks, and we said he was the best hitter in the draft. Maybe this guy belongs somewhere up in that conversation somewhere.
I don't know who that agency is, but they may have to give you 1% of whatever they're getting off of this in a few months here. But let me because it goes along the same lines, Joe. I want to ask you about Billy Carlson, because for 3 years we've thought the world of Billy Carlson. Huge upside since he was a breakout star at the future games as an uncommitted guy before committing to Vanderbilt. I would say there's been some ups and downs. Like we kind of stayed with him. We knew what it was there. The evaluation was set. We'd put him in the right lane. And then he had a big summer. He comes to the event, was explosive, just basically on the same level as Casey Cunningham. They were both right next to each other doing the same thing. Describe to me his swing, kind of the stuff that you saw out of the metrics there, because I want to go into a few things, especially the bat speed, which I think has ticked up for him. And he was noticeably stronger to me. right? We've seen him for 3 years. This kid has now started to fill out the way we thought he would. Still a lot more there, but the bat speed was noticeably higher than we've seen in the past. What were some of the things on Billy Carlson that you took away?
Well, yeah, you nailed it. Like, he has increased bat speed throughout his progression, and that's been important for him because he doesn't have like the most explosive acceleration profile, which is okay. Like, there is, you can have there is amount of bat speed that will overcompensate for a slower acceleration profile. And I don't know if that's something he looked at with like his blast metrics, but like when you do have like a, around a 10G acceleration profile, usually you want to increase your bat speed because as like an amateur hitter, if you have high bat speed and you have a really good approach at the plate in terms of like swing decisions and controlling the zone and pitch recognition, because like a top amateur pitcher is probably going to have like a fastball, and then even if they have like a shape on a slider, it's like probably professional already. He's probably landing in the strike zone like 20% of the time, 20% of the time. So like a really, really good high school amateur hitter will just like eliminate the off speed stuff that's not going to land in the zone as much and look for the fastball and explode on it. He's doing that right now. Like he's making like really, really good swing decisions on the circuit right now. He did it at area code. He did it at the All-American game. The bat speed's really, really significant, and he's like definitely has a frame that we were talking about earlier that can add a lot of strength. There's definitely something cognitively like sharp with him. Like I've kind of listened to him like talk during BP and stuff like that. And there's a lot of confidence. So like my biggest thing is what does that look like? Not so much just in professional baseball, but by the time it gets like the high A and double A. Because even if bat speed continues to progress and he's someone who is like pretty sharp and cognitively savvy at the plate and makes good swing decisions, he still might be like somewhat of a swing and miss as high as he goes. But if he's increasing his bat speed, he's getting stronger, and he's really dialed in with the advanced scouting reports. And he just has like a really good plan to play. Like when he's making contact, it can be significant. So the development path, like it's definitely going to be something that's more impact driven than contact driven over time.
Because that's what I want to try to guide you towards. And I'm going to DJ with Billy because eventually they're going to be compared, right? Kason Cunningham's going to be compared to Billy Carlson because it's some pick. They're going to have to be talked about in the same way that we'll get to Brady Ebel here in a minute, and even Xavier Nyans to an extent, although it's a bit different profile. DJ, talk about those two. So like Billy Carlson, Kason Cunningham, you get to see him in person. We want both. You're classic, like hopefully they both get to us. Yeah. How do you compare those guys in a war room? Going to the off season, there are a ton of, all the directors are there trying to dictate, like, what would I do?
Yeah, it really depends on how your system is set up. I don't think there's probably not going to be a organization out there that doesn't have higher defensive grades on Billy Carlson. I start to think about players that I enjoy watching play the position. I'd pay just to come in and watch him take ground balls and throw. It's really, really fun. It's a gift. He's very, very talented at shortstop. Now, what we also know is the bat is ultimately going to define probably what his future is going to be. So I've been in different situations where a really, really good defensive shortstop. This happened with Kyle Holder years ago out of the University of San Diego. He was a very, very gifted shortstop. And if you think that the offensive production is going to be enough, then you're thinking that WAR value can be driven higher and you can like that player. And there's other teams that are just going to keep it really simple. Just give me the better hitter. That's it. We'll let the defensive stuff wash out down the road. So I can see this being fairly divisive, I guess, between these two kinds of players. My personal speed is to go with Xavier Edwards. I didn't think that guy was playing shortstop in the big leagues. All I knew is that he can control the strike zone, he can rake, and he can run. And that's it. That's who I'm personally going with. Along the way, I've made some mistakes with that line of thinking, but that's just my comfort zone on where to go. Joe, you mentioned this swing acceleration thing. Some players, I like the way they have to compensate for the lack of explosiveness. We haven't talked about Hammond yet. He's short, he's direct, he's explosive. He's quick to the ball, and he's got good bat speed. There's some guys that just do it easy. And I don't have the measurables in front of me, but I think historically Um, maybe guys like a Rafael Palmeiro or maybe like a Robin Ventura, guys that when you watch him hit, you're like, man, it doesn't even look like he's swinging hard and the ball just explodes off of his bat. And then you've got guys like Mark McGwire that are just explosive right through the ball and they accelerate through the ball. So you have all these different players that can succeed. And to your point, which I think is a good one, when you don't have that explosive move to the ball, but you do have good bat speed, good finishing bat speed, you would think that the swing decisions, the ability to have good timing and pitch recognition becomes really, really important. So
yeah, it's
I like how you
a good analogy for it would be like for the way his bat is how it moves is like Usain Bolt. Like remember Usain Bolt was like he was the fastest man in the world, but his starts were like awful. Like they were so bad. He was like one of the slowest starters out the gate. And that's kind of similar to a profile like Billy Carlson. It's not the bat doesn't. It takes a minute for the bat to get going, but when it gets going, if that bat makes contact with the ball, it should be significant. I mean, it's 76 mile per hour bat speed. That's significant, So
I upped his power too in Miami. I think too, Shooter, you were a pitcher. I think as a pitcher, you don't rip the ball out of your glove and accelerate right away. The ball comes easy out of your glove. You get to the top of your arm swing. And then you're exploding and accelerating through release. Hitting's not much different. When that player decides to make his move to the ball, can he get there quick and can he accelerate through the ball and all that? So I like that comparable to you were a pitcher.
You guys, I'll let you go in a sec. You guys brought up Hammond though. I want to bring Hammond into the conversation because I'm sure JT's been sitting on his hands here. He wants to talk Hammond here. But outstanding weekend. And actually, DJ, I'll start with you just because he's done the two-way thing. He comes in, he pitches. Wasn't quite as electric as last year, but now we're holding him to the highest standard in his 1-2-3 inning where I think he punched out two guys. But the bat to me, the way he moved around the infield, how does the fact that he's kind of been evaluated on the mound at the plate, guys, what is he going to be? You almost brush it off a little bit. I don't think you can brush anything off anymore. You have to start locking in on this kid at the plate because he moves around really well. He's a good athlete. And more than anything, my takeaway from the week, this guy expects success and he has some moxie to him.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite players there. Being around the player, both on the field and off the field at the hotel, watching him interact with other players. These are some of the takeaways you take. Can't really measure that. But when you've been involved in the game for a long time, you know who the alpha is when he's walking around that field. And make no mistake, you probably couldn't see it if you were sitting in the stands. He wasn't really happy that he lost that home run derby. He wasn't going to sling bats around and throw helmets, but it was clear that he didn't like losing that home run derby to Borthwick, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then to watch him it's the bottom of the ninth. The game's over. The game is in hand. He's already hit. He's already pitched. The game wasn't over for him, though. He's playing to the end. He rifles the ball into left center field, and he goes into second base like it's the second inning. He's ready to score more runs on a 2 RBI. There's a passion to his game and an intensity level to his game that you just can't teach. Do you have to have that to play in the big leagues? No. You can be boring and low energy and just super gifted. You could that's they come in all shapes and forms, but make no mistake, this guy is intense. This guy's care level is really, really high. It probably comes a lot from his background. He's the son of a coach. It's the first time I've ever seen him. You asked me pitching or hitting. I really would like to, and we haven't had this conversation yet. My question would be like, why pitching? To me, I watched him pitch. There's nothing wrong with him. But if I want to go glass half full, I go, well, he's just another 5'11", 6-foot guy that throws hard. And you can be a prospect that way. But when I see him as a position player, and I did not talk to him, I would be surprised. I'd fall out of this chair if he's like, no, I want to be a pitcher. That guy screams, I want to be in the lineup every single day. So why not give him the chance to do that? I was really impressed with Hammond. Really impressed.
JT, break down the swing profile. Convince me and convince everyone. I'm already convinced, so I'm playing devil's advocate here, that this was just not a pitcher who took some good BP, had some nice metrics. What did the swing profile tell you after that day, after the 2 days?
It's really fast and really quick, and it obviously has a lot of impact too. If you look at his exit velocity numbers, 77 mile per hour bat speed was his average, and he was 19 G. I mean, he's basically 20 G's rotational acceleration. And it's a swing that's on playing for a really long time. So all the boxes are checked, and then if you looked at how's that translating to the ball. I mean, I wrote down all his exit velo. It's 102, 101. 104, 97, 105, 98, 103, 106. It's just on and on and on.
Hit the ball.
He hit the ball hard, and it's not just in BP, it's in games too. He braked in the game. So I think he had a 96 mile per hour single, and then I think that triple or a double was 99 mile per hour off the bat on a breaking ball, pretty sure, or a changeup. It was a pretty nasty pitch too, I'm pretty sure. It was just really impressive. And honestly, coming into the event, I thought he was a pitcher first. Because in my own free time, I've been doing some development on the pitching side because it's a massive blind spot for me, and I want to enjoy the game more. And I thought the slider was so significantly good. I watched the All-American game last year, and his slider was unbelievable. And I saw a slider recently this year, and it's still really, really good. And honestly, too, when he pitched in your guys' game, he pitched towards the end after he got done running around, and he took some big circles back to the mound. He was obviously a little tired. But
he's dripping sweat after workout.
Yeah, it's not it's just his effort level's so high in everything he does that obviously he's just gonna get a little gas, even though he's trying to hide it. But still on the mound, I thought he was really, really impressive. The fastball and slider are really good. And the change, did he flash? I'm pretty sure he flashed a changeup. I've seen him flash a changeup before, and it's kind of mimics the same shape as his fastball. But it's just way slower, and so it's pretty sick. So I don't know. I'm back and forth. Honestly, going into the vet, when I saw him take first round BP, I'm oh, this is the pitcher. And then he started hitting. I was oh crap, I have to pay attention more. And then he kept telling me to pay attention more without talking to me directly. But yeah, he's pretty good, man.
Joe, you said something there that I really liked. You said 102, 105, 98, 90. One of the metrics we used to use with the Marlins that I really, really liked. We kept track of 105. We kept track of 95. I really, really liked players that were 40, 50% north of percent over 95. And my hunch is if we looked at the last 100 plate appearances from this player, from Hammond, that he's living north of 95. And that's sometimes you get guys, maybe Nyans doesn't, because Nyans has a hard time with contact sometimes. But when you get to the top end of Nyans, that's what gets you really excited. With our boy Hammond, this is a guy that's probably living 40, 50, 60% above 95, which, old school part of me says this guy lives on the barrel. When this guy decides to swing it, he lives on the barrel. And gosh, was I surprised. But when we were at the hotel and he was walking around in his warm-up pants and his shirt, this dude is absolutely ripped out of his mind and physical, strong, which tells you, the care level's high to get after it off the field as well. So
another specimen was walking around, and Joe driving over to the ballpark on 3 days talking about guys. I think this was the name that kept coming up from you, Owen Jenkins, buzzworthy name of the summer. Tell us what you had coming into the event and what you took away from the event. And then I want to have a discussion with you about some things from the off season for Jenkins. Okay.
Yeah, I love Owen Jenkins. He's one of my favorite bats to evaluate this year. I'll get to his blast metrics first. It's 77 mile per hour bat speed, and it was like that at area code. And he's always north of 20 G's in rotational acceleration. And the on-plane efficiency is actually very, very high. It's 78%, 79%. The one thing I really like about Jenkins is that his batting practice data and his in-game data, which I have a pretty good sample size of from area code, is the same. It's pretty much the same data set, same profile. And that's really significant because most guys, especially at the amateur level, their BP data compared to their in-game data is much different. Mainly because these kids are very smart and they're very good athletes. So when they start seeing BP showcase data after 3 pitches, they go from reacting to just anticipating the pitch. And now they're just maxing out. It's basically a bench press for their swing. So the bat speed kind of jumps, and they're basically pretty much showing off their raw power tool, as they should, right? But once in a while you get these guys who have the same bat speed in BP to like in game, and what that tells me is they have the ability to get their A swing off a lot in game, and their timing is usually pretty good. Which is actually kind of that, and that was the way that Jenkins was at area code. And he played really well. He had that, like the 106 exit field home run that got out in a split second. He had that really good triple. Mm-hmm. The other thing I really like about Jenkins in game is the intent level and different counts. He raises intent level. I don't know if it's on purpose. I don't know if it's like something he's doing, like he's conscious of or unconscious of doing. I see a lot of guys who are kind of unconscious, like do it unconsciously. But like if it's a 2-0 count, a 3-1 count, like 1-0, whatever, they up their intent and they take the high risk on like a good an advantageous count. And it really worked for Jenkins because his two highest bat speeds in game at the area code games. One was that home run, and the other one was that triple he hit. That was like 100 miles an hour. The other one was 160 miles an hour. So there's something like there's some good instincts at the plate for Jenkins, and the profile is really good. And I say the profile is really good, despite thinking that no stride thing he's doing is really probably disadvantaged. It's not an advantage movement. Like he's basically doing this like it's almost like starting a sprint standing straight up, and he's still moving the bat like he does. I know I've heard there was probably some sort of. I don't know if it's true, but someone said they made that no stride adjustment because he was struggling with his timing or something like that. I think that's probably counterintuitive to like helping his timing. It's hard for your body to like time up the baseball if you're just like standing straight up and just like moving straight towards the ball like that. But like he's kind of like my under the radar guy, so to speak.
Under the radar All-American, yeah.
Under the radar All-American, yeah, compared to these guys, I guess. And I only say that because like if you look at like all of the at bats, they're not like the prettiest at bats. Like it seems like sometimes he has struggled with pitch recognition. I also go back sometimes like I don't know if he's struggling with pitch recognition. I think he's just like in a really bad like setup. Like he's like I think the no stride thing is like really hurting him. Like you can see his body wanting to like train. Yeah, you can see his body wanting to transfer, like the pelvic. The pelvis wants to turn back to the catcher and like unload, but like because his feet are just like planted to it's like a drill. He's literally hitting in the game with like the no stride drill, and he's still moving the bat at 77 miles an hour at 20 G's rotational acceleration, and once in a while like hitting a home run.
DJ, go ahead.
Go ahead, DJ. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, we were talking before the event even started. I ran into some people that knew Owen Jenkins. It was at the hotel the night before we even got this whole thing going. And to your point, Joe, yeah, he traditionally has not had a no stride swing. I think when we talked about him in one of the previous episodes, right now he hits a little bit like Albert Pujols, where he just rolls up on that front toe and then he lets it eat. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do that, but if we turn on big league games, that's a very, very, very difficult move to make. But that's something that he started early in the summer. And the game plan for him, as I know it, is to go back to how he used to hit. You know, maybe I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. Maybe he was struggling with, you said, recognition, chasing balls out of the zone. I didn't see him early in the summer, but he did make a conscious effort to close that gap with some of the swinging and missing and chasing. So that was his defense to do it. But I do think that the plan going forward over the offseason is to get into a more traditional setup. You know, maybe this is a Super 60 guy or something where we see what that looks like over the next 3 to 5 months.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like kudos to him for doing that, right? You go into the summer, you're going to be facing dudes every time. You're going to get one at bat against the guy who's blowing it out. He decided in his head, I need to lock down and let things work. And then DJ, you kind of teed up what I think's great about the Super 60 is the fact that he can go in the lab, kind of get that rhythm, show off that swing, a la Tyson Lewis, and a handful of others. What will that offseason work? So when you see something like that do for a guy like that, how do he's in a lane right now. Does he have a chance to elevate that lane come February 3rd in Chicago and show off something different? You know,
we scrutinize over these players, whether it's Joe, myself, you, scouts in the industry. We're all looking for things. When you leave the summer, yes, you've got your evaluation. You got a bunch of fancy numbers and boxes. But you should have, what do I expect of this player? It's up to the player to have the self-awareness that he needs to clean some things up, whether it's a pitcher on the mound with his delivery, or, we'll talk about Landon Harmon and developing a breaking ball and so on and so forth. We love Maddox Miller. He's got to develop a breaking ball and get stronger. It's up to the players. The players own their own career. The players are accountable. All we're doing is asking the question and then checking in on them in 4 months. If they answer the bell, Shooter, you nailed it. That's when you raise the position player up. That's when you raise him up. You can't gift it to him. He's got to take the reins and he's got to do it. But when they do, you've got to give them credit for it. And they've got a long time. We're talking 4 or 5 months down the road.
It's so fascinating, Joe, and I'm the billboard for the Super 60 here, but even a guy like Nyans, I think you can just come back, show it off. We've seen it in the past. We saw a slew of 7-figure guys come this winter and put on a show and have a great outing and ride that to spring success. I do want to ask you about a couple other guys.
Okay.
And it's more because they're fascinating to me. Ty Peoples, Georgia outfielder, who we've been super high on for forever. Love the kid. I think he made some really nice jumps this summer. DJ kicked off. We let DJ out of the cave for the first time to watch Ty Peoples hit some home runs at the MPI back in June. Talk to me about this data, because I'm going across, looking at the blast. His max hand speed, 25.5, hand speed average, 23.4. Pretty good there. Bat speed, a little bit lower. Is there anything, and I felt in the past, like maybe the bat speed's not quite there, but it feels teachable, or it feels like something he can make progress on, whereas all the other ingredients are there. This is not a finished product. The upside that we're looking at is years away for a guy like Ty Peoples. What did you see?
What I saw was, I do think the bat speed's there, and the swing is really good. The metrics are all good. I think he needs to work on that thing we were talking about earlier, which is some sort of intent training. I don't think he has a good grasp of knowing when to up his intent and then when go back to his average, and pitcher's counts. Because the swing path and everything is really, really good, and it's a quick swing. It's a 20G swing. The bat speed is 73 miles an hour, but it just it looked like a good. I think all the swings in the bet and BP were probably 80% to 90% intent level. It was kind of his game swings. It's hard because we're comparing to other guys who understand they understand that they need to take 100% intent swings right now because they need to show off the raw power. Where People's just kind of showing us the barrel control of his swing, which is really important.
How much
seems a high contact type of guy.
How much of the game
the intent was different?
How much of the game do you think where, hey, he's had a couple of weeks off, he's just trying to have a little less intent, and go more into what that intent training is? Is it something you're talking about counts, you're getting scouting reports? How do you train intent?
If you want the best way to train intent is to try and avoid passive type BP. All the BP you take is some sort of competitive environment. Whether it's mixed pitch BP, whether it's different count BP with mixed pitch. I'm a really big fan of those kind of foam ball that Driveline has. You put them out in the machine and over exaggerate all your miss hits. So if you're a little bit under, it goes straight down to the ground. If you're a little bit under, it pops right back up. You pretty much have to flush it. You have to hit it square. And when you're in super competitive environments like that, especially if you're a really, really good athlete, which is why I have athleticism as one of my big key threes that we were talking about earlier. DJ mentioned. These guys are going to find a way to just self-correct, whether it's intent, whether if it's some sort of swing adjustment they need to make. When you put hyper athletes in competitive environments and force them to compete instead of just I'm a big fan of Nassim Taleb, and he's a former trader, a quant guy, but he was big on finding the anti-fragile stock, which is basically there's fragile, where in this case a swing that's hyper sensitive to high environment. There's the robust swing, which kind of stays the same in competitive environments, and then there's the athlete in the swing that gets better as the environment goes up. And the anti-fragile swing is a swing that's been prepared with facing hyper competitive environments in the cage. And because I think a lot this doesn't apply to Peoples, but this is a good thing to talk about. Where a lot of people spend time in the cage trying to adjust their swing and make it super efficient and super optimized. But the problem is, like, you'll have a very optimized and efficient swing and mechanically sound swing and pretty swing, but it's not like stress tested, so it gets blown up in the games. So like, it's actually more. The ironic thing is, if you focus more on like competing in hyper competitive environments, the good athletes are to self-correct those things, because like if you're good, you have no choice but to get better. So there's a lot to just like putting a really good athlete like, you know, Hammond or Peoples or Cunningham, all these guys. You just stick them in a cage and put them in a hyper competitive environment. Like, eventually these guys are going to figure it out, and they're going to feel what they need to do, whether if it's like an intent thing, whether it's a swing thing, what have you. And that's my thing with Peoples. It's a good swing, but maybe just needs to be challenged more.
I couldn't agree with that more, Joe. I'm going to give you a really quick example. And again, I try to stay away from some of these specific examples, but I have to give this one. The year that I spent at Vanderbilt, I would put the players in really, really competitive environments, not on the field batting practice, but in the tunnel underneath. JJ Bleday, who's now a 3 to 3.5 WAR player in the big leagues, was a true freshman. Jaron Kendall was a junior. Jaron Kendall was supposed to be the first, second, third, somewhere up there. It wasn't even close. When you watch those two players in a height, and there was other players in the cage. Will Toppy was in the cage. Jason DeLay, who's in the big leagues. There were other players in there. But when you put players in that hyper-competitive environment, and we were asking them to do specific things with the fastball machine, it was amazing which players elevated their game and which players continued to improve.
Yep, and that's a big reason for a big reason for my third thing is makeup. When I do impact, that's the makeup, because it takes a certain kind of kid to be okay with sucking for a kind of for most of the time in a training environment, understanding that it's going to help you on the field. It really does. Like, you know, like if you look, that's why I'm a big fan of like what the Orioles have done in the draft like the last couple of years. So they just like draft like hyper athletes with impact and good makeup. And I know for a fact that the environment at spring training and the minor leagues for the Orioles is hyper competitive on the offensive side. And look what's like happening with these guys. There's a really funny like athletic article that tried to like pinpoint why all these Orioles athletes are really good, or all these Orioles hitters are really good. And they're like looking at like metrics and stuff like that. Oh, they're focusing on like vertical batting. Oh, they're focusing on bat speed or acceleration. And they kind of like briefly like went over like the environment. Like they didn't like mention it as like a key indicator, but they kind of like mentioned it. So like the layman reading that would be like, oh, they start looking at all the metrics. But like the esoteric reading that, or like the Straussian reading of that would be like, oh, it's the competitive. This hyper competitive environment is like, or these KPIs these players are producing are like a product of the hyper environment. And then the Orioles are probably just like monitoring that from afar and making sure everything's like in check. The environment's good. You know what I mean?
It really sounds like DJ and I, we've talked about that most good players succeed in spite of their coaching. Put them in a position to adapt. Humans will adapt. Athletes will adapt. Let it happen. And I think I'm a huge fan of like guide towards discovery. So put them in a position that they can find that discovery and that advancement. Mm-hmm. That sounds like something that's awesome. Getting back to Peoples, where he's got a chance to jump into the offseason, do some stuff, because I do think that it was intentful at the NPI. He got off some big swings there. Now it's just a little bit more of that approach. I do want to talk about, because we could probably break down each player. Maybe we should in the future for each guy. Maybe, you know what, JT, why don't you book a week after Super 60? We'll go through all of the players one by one. I do want to give these 26s some love, though, because really talented group. They did get beat up on a little bit by an older 25 crew who was just – sometimes Big Brother is just not going to lose. That's just how it comes down to play. But tell me about a few of your favorite guys. So give me a list. Who are the three? Joe Tourville. These are my guys that I'm following. Your top three, strictly position player, blast metrics. Who are your guys?
So tough. I'll start with the first one, James Tronstein.
Okay.
I love James Tronstein.
Welcome.
Yeah, that was my first time really looking at him. I mean, yeah, you can go into blast metrics, 76 miles, or I mean, it's basically 77 miles an hour bat speed in BP, and it's 18 Gs rotational acceleration of a couple of 20 plus. So fast swing, quick swing. And then you look at him, he's like, but he doesn't look like huge. Like, you know what I mean? He's not like a super strong guy. But like, again, and like you mentioned earlier, DJ, about the 90, that's what I was charting. I was actually charting anything above 95 miles per hour on the exit velo for these guys to see how that bat is translating. And also another thing I was charting or trying to do as much as I could was a contact point too. So like I'll try to pay attention to like how consistent the contact point is in BP, because that's just something like those guys gotta have dialed in. Like they can't be getting beat on BP pitching.
Right.
And like 9 to 18 inches in front of the plate in Major League Baseball, those are where most of the home runs are for contact point. And then I believe it's like 6, actually I've written down somewhere. It's like 3 to 6 inches. They're usually like doubles or hard singles and stuff like that. And all the ground outs are like 6 to 18 behind home plate. So I try and see if they're like getting to that 6 to 9 to 18 inches of I mean, it's subjective. I don't have like a measurement in my brain. I can just like do that. But
it's your algorithm. You're good. You're good.
Yeah, exactly. Just like calculate it in my brain. But yeah, I like to see where the contact point is. All his contact points were like what I think was like 9 inches in front of the plate, and his exit velos too. Where is it?
I mean, he's 105, 106. He did leave the yard to dead central with wood.
Yes, 99, 101, 97, 101, 95, 99, 99, 104, 106. And then the next day on the in-game BP too is like 98, 105, 105. It was just a really impressive barrel. I thought his at-bats were really good too in the game. I thought it was really good zone recognition. I thought it was good pitch zone control and good pitch recognition. He got some good swings off. I think he's the one who got robbed, right, in that center field, that deep center field.
Yes.
That was a really good swing as well.
Our boy Wallace stolen from him.
Yes, that's right. And that was a great swing. And it was a really good at-bat too. It was really impressive. So yeah, he was. I mean, I came away walking away from that. I had him dotted for next year.
All right, who's number 2?
I really like Noah Wilson.
Okay.
Noah Wilson looked really good.
Tell me why.
Honestly, pretty easy. I mean, the bats, the blast metrics were. It's a lot of stuff that we're talking about. The bat speed was really good, 73 miles an hour, 21 G's rotational acceleration. I thought the intent was good in his swings. It was just, he kind of checked all the boxes, and for being a 2026 guy, it was like a heavy dot next to his name. That was kind of.
It was one of my favorite swings in the 26 class. Just pure swings in BP. Again, these guys are young. I would agree. I talked to him after his round of BP. Really easy, nice swing.
He was a future gamer too. Got an invite at the Future Games. Was outstanding. 6'4" runner rate at the fastest 60. His BP on that day was a lot better than it was at the Future Games, which I'd be curious to see the data between the two from the blast motion side. He even had Matt Holliday coming over like, hey, who's this kid? I really like this swing.
Hey, Hunter Martin was on him. When I went to Hunter Martin's event early in the summer, he was all over Noah Wilson right away. He's known that guy for a long time. So
I ran right over to Hunter and asked him about him. I was like, who is this Noah Wilson kid? He talked to me. I got the whole life story on the kid. I mean, the impact too is like 101, 102, 102, 102, 100, 100, 103, 104, 102, 102, like 95, 96. Like a dude, these guys are just stroking.
And a lot of that is a big reason. We went in the summer with him as a top 100 guy where he had made a huge jump. We're setting up that summer follows list for 2026s, right, for the college coaches. And he had made a huge jump because the stuff we're talking about now, the athleticism, the metrics, we dove into the blast data, him coming to an event, being able to see the high exit velocities, he can run, he can stick in center field. Those were all things talking with Hunter that elevated him to a big summer, which led to this game, which led to, I really was blown away by him on the workout day, but awesome stuff. So that's 2 JT. Give me your third.
This third one's going to be tough. I'm going to,
or you can give a few. Give me 3 more.
I'm going to give one that's like, that I'm still kind of figuring out, but like Anthony DelAngel.
Okay. Hold on. I'm going to stop you here.
Go ahead.
Anthony DelAngel, I'm going to say it right now, is going to be the absolute most polarizing prospect in the 26 class. And those of you listening, we're at the Jets, probably throwing some video up here. It is by far the most unique swing that I've seen from a prospect. No kid this summer produced like Anthony DelAngel. Yeah. The amount of calls, talking to Brandon Goins, I called to talk about Texas guys. Who are the dudes we got to look at in 26 class? And he's saying this kid from New Mexico, which takes a lot. When you're in the great state of Texas, you're plugging those guys. You want your DFW guys there, your Houston guys, San Antonio. He said this DelAngel kid is just a freak, athletically off the charts. The setup, I have no idea what's going on. I have not slowed down as much video as I have with DelAngel. Tell me about what was going on with what you were seeing metrically from this kid? Because it does jump off and there is some freakiness to it.
Well, the metrics are just like solid. I mean, the bat speed's good, 73 miles an hour bat speed, and the G's are like, it's like 17 G's rotational acceleration, and it's above 70% on plane. You know, it's good. It's like a good swing profile, good blast profile. My thing with Angel is like, there's just some guys who are able to like extract way more value out of their profile, and I think that comes with understanding who they are. You know, there's a lot of guys with like okay blast profiles, like good blast profiles, but they don't know, they don't understand their profile, they don't understand how to like up their intent, stuff like that. He was one of the first guys I labeled at the underclass games as someone like, oh, this guy really understands his profile and his intent's really good. And I was like matching up timestamps with like his hits at area code game, and like it does at bats he would go up in certain like opportunistic counts, which made sense because every time he was in an opportunistic count at the area code games he got hit. And he was like one of those guys where it's like after like the second day or third day, you're like, holy crap, this kid is like batting like 700.
He just got like 6 hits.
Because it's not, again, it's like not like in your face. Like it's not like, you know, it doesn't. His swing is very much like I'm pretty sure his like a cue for him is probably like he wants the bat to be the extension of the back arm, and that's what it looks like. You know, like Trout kind of had. It looks like Trout has that cue, or like Arenado has that cue, where it looks like they don't even like quite like commit on the wrists on their swing. They kind of just like end like this, and they just want the barrel to be long through the swing zone. Where a lot of people like imitate that, but they think they can't swing it fast enough to do it. But if you can swing the bat fast enough to keep your barrel on the path like that, like in this like, you know, steep but on plane for a long time type of swing, if that's what he's doing. He does swing the bat 73 miles an hour while doing that. You know, if he had a swing that was more just like let loose, like, you know, like Noah Wilson or something like that, he probably would swing the bat like 76 miles an hour, 77 miles an hour. But it's like a much more like strategic swing that is more towards contact for sure. And the thing is, I mean, I know we're talking about like offense, but like I loved him defensively. I thought he was a really good infielder, and the arm's really good. Kind of looked like, I mean, I take this as you will. Like I thought he kind of looked like a young Machado at third base defensively.
I've gotten that a lot this summer.
Yeah. Okay, you have. Okay, I'm not crazy. Okay, good. He's like long, skinny, really good arm. Like the hands were great.
At least squeezed the life out of my hand.
Oh yeah, he's super strong. Like good glove angles on receiving. He's just a really fun athlete to watch. And then you get close to him, you're like, this dude, like you could picture a guy that's just like filled out more like Manny Machado is right now. You know what I mean? I know he's like super thin, but the kid has huge shoulders. Like there's like tennis balls on his shoulders or like a softball on his shoulders. But it looks great.
It was honestly, it was like a Juan Gonzalez type deal going way back.
Yeah.
Like he had that.
I like that one. You're showing your age, shooter.
Well, DJ, what did you see? Because this is your first time, and like he's one of those first timers workout. You almost drop a WTF. This frame's unreal. Right. I don't know what's going on here, but he hits it hard. What did you have?
We've talked about players from Florida, Texas. We talk about Southern California. This guy's from Cleveland, New Mexico. So there's a rawness to his game and like this authentic, maybe like this authentic rawness to his game that needs to be buttoned up. Joe, you were blowing me out of the water with what you were talking about right there. I'm way over my skis in this conversation. I just saw a guy that's very athletic, very explosive, super strong. I mean, as soon as he started throwing from right field, you thought, oh my God, good Lord, this guy's got a cannon. Then he goes over to third base and does it. We got a long way for this guy to improve over the next few years. I say few years. He's probably got what, 20 months or something to go down this progression. Maybe polarizing, maybe one of the bigger ceilings if he can clean some of this stuff up, if he can become more self-aware about his swing and all those kind of things.
He'll get those reps. Joe, so you had a couple more that you wanted to throw in. It felt like you were itching to talk about a couple other guys. Who else you got? Or I can throw you off my guy.
Yeah, what's your guy?
Let me give you my, because I walked away from this event and like maybe even more than any other player at it, Brady Harris was the biggest takeaway for me. A kid, just talking to him, the it factor that surrounds him. And it's always that curious, tough profile, right? He's a right outfielder. What's he going to have to do constantly, which he has done for 2 years now, has done nothing but produce against the top pitchers in the country. Hearing his mindset and just what he was about being on the diamond, I was floored by the upside for that kid. Comparisons of Dylan Cruz are going to come. Florida kid, right. Very similar, kind of the way he moves well through impact, controls that forward movement really well. Ball jumps off the bat. I'm looking at the blast data on him. How many swings do we get? That would probably be my first question, because you said a couple of guys.
Yeah, we only had 6 swings on him.
Okay, so like that makes more sense. One thing, it's you always have to ask those questions, right? When you get data sets, what is the data set? Let's dive more into, is there something, an outlier here? So kind of the data sets aren't as significant for this guy, but I was blown away by what he was able to do. Did you take anything? Because you've probably had him a little bit this summer as well.
Yeah, we have more on him for sure. And I mean, I usually
give us more. Give us more, JT.
I mean, I usually the rotational acceleration metrics we have on him, which are outstanding. 28 G, it's almost 30 G's rotational acceleration. And like, rotational acceleration from BP to in game does translate. There's no like curve from BP to in game, because we're only measuring like that beginning part of the swing to get that acceleration to bat speed. We have him for this one is like 66.9 miles per hour, but his peak, I think he's peaked up to 76. And there was an issue. I mean, there was I think he wrapped the sensor off or something like that.
Yeah.
But like, so we had the least amount of swings for him out of everybody. But like, it's a 6 swing sample size there, so take note on that. But I've seen him at 72 and like 71 miles an hour.
Okay.
So it is good. Yeah, the boxes are checked there. I wouldn't be too worried about the bats.
DJ, what did you see? Because like, is there a chance we're just grabbing a Langford and a Cruz and trying to mush them together and see what comes?
That was one of my favorite players in this 26. And truth be told, I wasn't bearing down on every one of these 26s in the game. But throughout I was really dialed in on these 25s. But the pre-game work, the ability to throw, how his body moves around the field, the types of swings he took in batting practice. I like the Cruz example. He's got a 60 arm. He's going to have raw power. He's athletic, so this was one of my favorite players to follow in the 26 class. To your, I guess, to piggyback off of you, Shooter.
I will say, you guys didn't get to talk to him yet, but blown away by being away. And a lot of these 26s, I will say the same. The Grady Emerson, Jacob Lombard, the same way. I actually mentioned to Lombard, I said, is there any way you and Billy Carlson can just go take ground balls for the next 20 minutes?
Yeah.
And we'll just kind of like watch for a little bit.
We'll put our pens down, and we'll just enjoy it.
JT, do you have any other guys? I mean, even Sean Dunlap, who's like bat speed is that real? Yeah.
I mean, well, I'll have to go back and look at his in-game swings. I'm sure there's a little bit of a curve there, but again, there should be. It's a guy who's a hyper athlete who understands in BP that
he's a big kid.
That's the thing, is like, you have to kind of, like, when you're looking at bat speed, there's more than just like the value of what you're looking at. There's kind of like a feel thing there. Like, the intent in BP is probably going to be a curve, and you got to kind of look at hyper competitive environments like in-game, compare those. And then for me, like, I'm pretty big I look at the BP. Okay, that's the ceiling. Okay, let's look at the in-game average. Like, what's his average bat speed getting off, and then let's look at swing by swing data. See what the bat speed is on that swing by swing data, and then try and match up with the situation. And then you can kind of dive in a little deeper. So yeah, it's real. Yes, absolutely. That's probably his ceiling is 77 miles an hour for sure. That's probably his 100% intent for Dunlap. If you want to know another guy, I would like to go back to 2025 real quick.
All right, give us one more, because I want to wrap up here, because DJ and I will shift over to pitching here in a second. Got to let Joe go, because he's got all sorts of other stuff to go out there and hopefully learn, so then he can teach me in the car on our rides to the field. But who is the 25 you have?
Foss. Is it Foskey or Fosk? I always say
Foskey.
Jaden. Yeah, Foskey. I love Foskey. Yeah, Foskey is like slowly turning into like one of my favorite hitters in this class too.
Oh, I've convinced you in the car. I went to bat, huh?
We talked about it a lot in the car. I mean, he has the impact grades. I think for me, I like the athleticism. Okay. He's really strong. Really good makeup too. I didn't talk to him directly. I kind of just like heard him like interact with people and watch how he interact with people. And then I think the zone control and the pitch recognition was like really good in the game. That was something I missed from him in area code. I didn't really like dial in on that at area code games. I was watching his at bats. So I kind of paid attention to that a lot during the All-American game. And it looked like really good. He got like really quality swings off, and he took good pitches that are hard to take.
He does that a lot, which is why I think the world. He's the 11th ranked player in the class for a good reason there. DJ, talk to me about Fausti a little bit more from your side, because he's another guy you got to see a lot of, right? You locked in on the East Cobb Astros team. You saw a ton of him. Ironically, before you go, like, I talked with him interview, and he talked about how his pull side, he's always had power the opposite way, like the pull side's just coming. Then he goes and puts on a display to the pull side in BP. That was enlightening to me. What did you take away from Fausti to stamp his summer?
Yeah, and he did right out of the chute. You know, you say it's coming. That home run that he hit for the East Cobb Astros when we were at the NPI was crushed to right field. So something's happened over the course of the summer. When I think of Jaden Fausti, I think of consistent. It's like the first word that comes to mind. Yes, we've got bat speed and strength, and we got some other things, but every single time I've seen this guy over the course of the summer, it doesn't mean he's gotten a hit every time, but he constantly puts together quality at bats. His ability to use the field, the swing works well, their strength. Walking away from this event, I don't know when we'll see him again or when I'll see him again. I want to know what position he's going to land at. Because if he ends up in the outfield and he doesn't want to catch, it just becomes a tougher one to pull. Now, Ryan Clifford went out, and he's an outstanding prospect. I believe the Astros pulled him like in the comp or the second round or something like that. Yep. But if he turns into a corner outfield, then you just got to believe in the bat. And he's done everything to make you believe that he can hit over the course of the summer. So I've always liked Fausti.
You definitely scouted this guy. How far away is he from a Robert Hassel?
Not too far. Probably just a speed grade. I don't know Jaden's run grade off the top of my head, but not too far. I like that. That's good. He's a little bigger and stronger.
I think it's something to evaluate, right? Moving forward, like how far away are we here? Are we getting a discount on a Robert Hassel type talent at pick 45?
Right.
I think that's something to look at. But JT, Joe Tourville, Blast Motion, this was awesome. Want to have you on more because at some point we'll go into that Ohtani conversation that we had, which I found incredibly fascinating. The Ohtani Skeens matchup and what he was doing there. Maybe I'm going to save that for the Super 60 when we have you back on here. But DJ, Joe, it's been awesome here on the War Room. I can't wait for us to do some more of this stuff. The summer is officially over. We're moving on. Get your lane set. Let's prepare everything because the draft board is coming at the end of the fall. So until next time, this has been the War Room. We'll see you guys next time.